government. Okay, either it can be the state government or it can be the central government. I mean, let us say that it is the government of India which is going to be benefited with the entrepreneurship development of these MSMEs. So, the government of India has established, okay, an Office of Development Commissioner. We call it as MSME in the year 1954. And over the years, it has been in its role evolving into an agency for advocacy or hand-holding, or it can be the facilitation for the small industry sector. So in a way, it was supporting, it acts as a backbone in giving the ideological suggestions to the small-scale industries. And when we are talking about the facilities, the ministry in the year 2007 has given us the small scale industries and the Ministry of Agro-Rural Industries. Both of these ministries were merged to form the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. So earlier, the small scale industries and the agro and the rural industries, both were treated separately. But from 2007, due to the merger, these two have been evolved as MSME. So now this MSME since then has emerged as a vibrant, dynamic sector of Indian economy. Okay, so it not only played a crucial role in providing the larger employment opportunities, I mean, at a comparatively lower capital, and moreover, the large industries were willing for the setup of their industries in the rural and the backward areas. So in way, you are able to balance the economic growth and development. So MSMEs are complementary to large industries in the sense they work at the same part with the large scale industries, and they function as ancillary units. Now, the ancillary units are the units which supply the parts which are required by the large scale industries. And these industries, they make a huge contribution to the socio-economic development of the country. So government provides a lot of support for training this hand-holding and promotion of rural enterprises through the number of schemes or the programs, and these are implemented through MSME and the other ministries. So the schemes, the programs undertaken by the ministry and the organization can provide the flow of credit from financial institutions or banks. So this is the primary concern everywhere. Whenever we are talking about any industrial setup, the basic requirement is the blood. That is the blood for the industries is the finance. So the finance, getting the finance and getting the credit from the various financial institutions, or it can be the banks, or it can be, I mean, the lenders who are going to give the capital resources to the ventures. And then they also support the technology. Now, you need to go for the upgradation, you need to go for the modernization. So for all this, you need the technical support or technical aid. So you need to have a support which will really help you in taking the decisions which are leading to the technological innovations or growth. And then you have the testing facilities, I mean, the quality certifications, whether you are meeting the ISO standards, whether you are meeting the latest ISO standards of 2000 or 2001. So in a way, the certifications will be given, which gives you the international standardization of your organization, stating that these are following the quality standards or the quality norms. And then we have the access to the management practices. So whatever the latest trends, the management practices are there. So those can be implemented by the aid of these ministries. And you need to also have the upgradation. Now the upgradation, how do you upgrade yourself? Through adequate training facilities, through adequate coaching facilities. So this can happen when you're able to accelerate your technology, your technical skills by the appropriate intervention of the ministry's training program. And then apart from that, you have the welfare of artisans and workers. Now, welfare, it can be the provisions of the medical aid, or it can be the basic amenities of drinking and water, or it can be the requirement of the housing facilities. So such kind of welfare measures will be assisted and taken care. And we also have the assistance for the better access to not only the domestic market, but also the export markets. Whenever we are talking about the domestic and the export market, to market the goods, you need to be tactical, you need to have the tactical knowledge, information, you need to have the statistics with you, and you need to have the conditions which are prevalent in the market. Based on that, you can take an effective decision. So many things are required. So just selling does not mean selling. You need to have knowledge of n number of things before you jump into the market. So similarly, when we are talking about the global market, so when you're exporting your goods, you need to know a lot of information about the country, the language, the currency, and the taste and the preferences, the kind of atmosphere, the weather conditions, and the lifestyle of the people living there. Okay, all these things you need to know before you go to an export market. Okay, so when we are talking about the languages and the culture for the export market, so a motorcycle company, they wanted to develop a new kind of motorcycles, and they wanted to introduce the motorcycles worldwide. So, I mean, they planned for a good kind of execution, and I mean, different countries they have chosen, they have given a good brand name, a simple name called Nova. Okay, so the vehicle two-wheelers name is Nova. And I mean, it is very simple to pronounce, easy to remember. So many factors they have taken into consideration when the branding of the product was done. And when the product was introduced in few of the places, the review was good, but in one of the country, that is in Spain areas, the product was outrightly rejected. So, I mean, there were no takers. Nobody was interested in knowing. Nobody was interested in understanding what kind of a product it is, what are the benefits of the two-wheeler, what are the specific features. So then the market research was done by the promoter just to know why, after, I mean, introducing a very good product into the market, which was successful in other places, why is it not successful in Spain? So when he came to the information, he could get the meaning of Nova. Nova means not moving. So he has given a brand name to a motorcycle which is supposed to be moving. So people correlated the name of the product to the motorcycle, and assuming that it is not moving, nobody was interested in knowing about the product. So such kind of minute things have to be taken care. So the lifestyle, the language, the spelling, the look of the product. Now, when it comes to the look of the product, now we all know about the Barbie doll. So Barbie doll is one of the favorite doll of children, right? Especially the kids, the babies. I mean, they really love the style, the Barbie looks, the way the Barbie's attire, the color of the eyes, the hair, and everything. So when it comes to the Barbie doll, when US has introduced it, almost every place the Barbie doll was a success. I mean, each and every girl was adored to have a Barbie doll with her. I mean, it was one of the favorites. But the same doll was not accepted in Japan. Why? Because when it comes to the looks of Barbie doll, it was more like American. I mean, it looks like an American doll. So, I mean, Japanese, they don't wanted an American doll. Rather, they would prefer a Japanese doll. So, I mean, they outrightly said that they don't want this product, this Barbie doll. The kids totally not accepted the product. So then what did the company do? Again, they had to change the eyes for Japan, especially with the, I mean, the drooping or some kind of different varieties of eyes, what they have. Based on that, the Barbie doll was developed and it was introduced in the Japanese market. It instantly hit the market. So whenever we are talking about product, you need to know what kind of requirements are there. Before jumping to the conclusion, you cannot just say that, okay, this product would be successful or this would be a failure. And then we have the measures to promote capacity building, and then the empowerments of the units, whether it is the individual or in the groups. So how are they empowered to take forward the product and then make the product viable in the market? So the implementation of these policies and the various programs and schemes for providing infrastructure and support services, the MSMEs were undertaken through the Office of the Development Commissioner, the National Small Industries Corporation, the Khadi Village Industries Commission, the COIA Board, and the training institutes like National Institute for Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises. Okay, so many have been in the implementation process to have the access for the MSMEs. So some of the recent policy initiatives which were taken by the ministry are ease of registration process of MSMEs. So, I mean, the earlier it was very time consuming process where you have to file for the entrepreneurship memorandum, and there are necessary conditions which are to be fulfilled. So many procedural delays used to be there whenever you want to file for an entrepreneurship. But the Udyog Aadhaar memorandum has simplified the process of registration. It is a one-page registration, and usually it is known as with an acronym UAM. Okay, and once the attestation of the documents has been dispensed, it is very easy to, file for the registrations under MSME. And coming to the framework of rehabilitation and revival, so the MSMEs which are non-performing, like we call non-performing assets. So though the assets are there, they are not performing, they are not utilizing. So such kind of assets who are into the exit policy, they don't want to continue the business because of the losses what they are incurring. Some kind of revival and rehabilitation procedures are being conducted where you try to revive the sick unit. You try to revive the units which are into continuous losses and there is no hope for the light. And then you have the Aspire. It is a scheme for the promotion of innovations, rural industry and entrepreneurship. So it was launched in the year 2015, and it has a setup for the technological centers and the setup for the incubators. And these accelerate the entrepreneurship and also promote the startups. Now, as I said, startup is the trend of the market. Now, for example, the Swiggy and Zomato, these are startups. So with the aid of the startup, you can see that how the market is growing, how the market is developing. So, in a way, these will try to provide the assistance to promote the startups. And then you have the National Manufacturing Competitiveness Program. And this is a program which ensures the growth of small scale sector in a very healthy way. Okay, so the overall growth of the manufacturing sector will be, definitely a positive sign for the economy. So in a way, you're going to take the crucial factors into consideration in accelerating these industries and then seeing that there is growth. So the National Manufacturing Competitiveness Program highlights the needs for the enhancing the competitive spirit, the competitiveness amongst the Indian manufacturing sector. And this can be measured through productivity or through the resources what they are using or through the employment of the people. Based on that, the growth can be measured and accelerated. And then we have the public procurement policy for goods produced and services rendered by micro and small enterprises. So in this exercise, we can see that the Section 11 of MSMED Act 2006, the Government of India has very clearly notified that the public procurement policy for the MSMEs, okay, which is applicable to the central ministry department also. So it makes mandatory that every central ministry department or public sector undertaking shall set an annual goal of the procurement of micro and small enterprises, and with the objective of achieving overall procurement of minimum of 20% of the total purchases of the products produced and the services rendered by MSME. So in a way, the government wants to boost the market. So that is where at least the 20% of the annual procurement has made mandatory, wherein they can see the stock from these enterprises is routinized in acquisition. So the minimum 20% is mandatory. And coming to the new initiatives to stimulate MSMEs, if we see, Honorable Prime Minister, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi announced on 12th of May 2020 a special economic and comprehensive package of 20 lakh crores in Indian currency, which is equivalent to 10% of India's GDP to revive the Indian economy. So post-COVID, the COVID, though we were developing at a slower pace, but the COVID has hampered all the all the measures or all the growth opportunities. So this 2020 scheme has really provided the required financing aid and moreover, the benefit what they can take in making the productivity of the nation higher. Okay. And not only this, once an MSME has been set up, it's not that you're only using the financial resources. At the same time, you're providing the human resources, you're providing the auxiliary industries, the boost, you're providing the locational advantage. So it's not that the funding will be done only for the funding aspects. So many other aspects will be simultaneously mobilized and growth can be achieved. So the finance minister has included the following, that is the 3 lakh crores for the emergency working capital facility for the businesses. So what is working capital? I keep on repeating, working capital is the capital which is required for the day-to-day functioning of the organization. So such capital requirement can be funded by the 3 lakh crores. And it is called emergency working capital, where all the doors are closed. Maybe, they can go for this particular door. And then you have 20,000 crores subordinate debt for the stressed MSMEs. Now, stressed MSMEs, in the sense they've already exhausted their funds and they're altogether in a phase where they could not raise the fund and they are in the severe debt blockage. And then you have the 50,000 crores equity infusion through fund of funds. You wanted to put the funding, so it is only the funding. And this kind of funding will try to provide the benefits of expansion and diversification. Okay, so the new definition of, the other measures like e-market linkage. Now everywhere it is the e-marketing, online marketing, direct marketing, where you use the technology wherever you are, you can deliver the products. And I hope you have seen the advertisements in the television also, where a craftsman somewhere in the rural village will be making deliveries to foreign countries, delivery of the products to the foreign countries just by using the internet, by having an app in Google Play or Play Store. And then with that app, you try to generate your business. So for all this, you need some kind of linkages, some kind of promotion, some kind of training, so on and so forth. So these aids will be provided as a facility. And then there's a new definition now for the MSME. It is will be revised by raising the investment limit. So generally, in the earlier definition, the limit was lesser. Now, in the new definition, the MSME has been raised with the investment of less than 5 lakhs for the manufacturing enterprise and investment for the less than 10 lakhs for the service enterprise. So, the criteria for the investment in the plant and machinery and the investment in the annual turnover, based on that, the enhancement of the monetary value is observed here. And then we have the taxation benefits. Now, what do you mean by taxes? Every corporation, every company, every organization which earns income need to pay the taxes. So when we are talking about the MSMEs, this, you might be given the subsidies, you might be given the options for the concessional rates of investments. So technical aids are provided, training services are provided. So many aids are provided. So why are these given to MSMEs? These are given to encourage the MSMEs to produce on large scale basis and then see sufficient profits. So whenever the profits are higher, so whenever the profits are higher, automatically you tend to pay more of the taxes. So to benefit the MSMEs by providing the tax SOPs, by providing the tax benefits, by collecting less percentage of tax, in a way you are trying to boost the productivity of MSMEs, because whenever you have the tax SOPs, you can produce more, you don't have to pay tax, your revenue is saved, your profits are saved for future investments. So such kind of decisions taken by the government will be definitely boosting the MSMEs to perform better. So what are the benefits provided? What are the benefits which have been extended to the MSMEs? The 5% reduction in the corporate tax rates. So the corporate tax rate, as I already said, the companies need to pay the taxes at the rate of 30%. So, but if you come under the MSMEs, you can pay the tax rates around 25%, where the annual turnover is of rupees 50 crores in the year 2015 and 16. So it was aimed to provide the tax relief to the companies, wherein they have the benefit in producing more, earning more, and wherein the investments can be diverted for the other expansion activities, and at the same time you are paying a percentage of amount of taxes to the government also. And when you see the percentage, this has benefited nearly 96% of the companies. And by listing the MSMEs on exchange. So generally, as you know, only the public sector companies' shares are listed in the stock exchange. The private company shares are not listed. Okay, so when we are talking about the MSMEs, so there's a benefit given to the MSMEs to list their shares in the stock exchanges, and they have been enjoying the benefits such as 0% long-term capital gains tax and the 15% short-term capital gain tax. So 0% long-term capital gains, in the sense, generally the long-term capital gain tax is 20%. It is a flat rate. It might be 1,000 or it might be 10,000, it might be 1 lakh or 10 lakhs. The rate of tax is flat rate 20%. And if it is the long-term capital gain on shares, the rate of tax is 10%. Okay, so but there is a minimum exemption. If the income exceeds 1 lakh only, the long-term capital gain on shares will be taxed. Whereas the short-term capital gain tax, where the securities transaction tax is attracted, the tax rate is 15%. So for the MSMEs, there is 0% long-term capital gain tax. At the same time, they have to pay 15% on short-term capital gain of tax. And when it comes to the time frame, the carrying forward for the MAT. Now, what is this minimum alternate tax? Now, this minimum alternate tax is a scheme introduced by the Ministry of Finance, like where more and more companies are trying to show 0% profits. So on what do you pay taxes? You pay taxes on total income. So when you're trying to show your total income as less, or sometimes in cases you show losses, that is your total income is 0, you don't have to pay the taxes. But how do you show 0 income? By claiming the deductions, by claiming the exemptions. Under the Income Tax Act, the companies can show that their profits are nil or less. So to avoid that, the income tax authorities, that is the Ministry of Finance, has introduced the minimum alternate tax, MAT. We call it as MAT. Now, as per the MAT, there's a pro forma given, and there you need to calculate the book profits. Okay, so how do you calculate? Instead of calculating the tax on total income in the normal company's taxes, you calculate the minimum alternate tax on the book profits. So how are the book profits calculated? The book profits are calculated as per the pro forma given by the income tax authorities. I mean, what all exemptions and the deductions which were claimed in the earlier phase are disallowed. So some are disallowed 100%, some are disallowed at 50%. So based on that, you calculate the book profits. And on these book profits, you're going to pay the tax at the rate of 18.5%. So what is the normal corporate tax? It is 30% on total income. But whenever you're calculating the tax on book profits, it is calculated at the rate of 18.5%. And whichever tax is high, whether the tax on the total income or tax on the book profits, whichever is higher, you have to pay that tax. For example, your tax on total income is say 10,000 and your tax on book profits is say 50,000, then you have to pay 50,000 as the tax to the income tax authorities. So what do you mean by MAT credit? Now the carry forward MAT credit, it is nothing but whenever the companies are paying tax on book profits, the difference between the total income and the tax on the book profits is provided as a credit. So whenever they are paying the tax on total income, this credit, whatever credit they have set aside, can be utilized. So in a way, again, the government is helping to reduce the burden of the tax. Now, this carry forward was earlier 10 years. The MAT credit could be carried forward for 10 assessment years. Okay. Now, that has been raised to 15 assessment years, wherein helping the MSMEs to reduce their tax liability further in future. Now, there is also reduction is the presumptive tax by 2% for the companies. Whenever the turnover of the company is less than 2 crores, I mean, they have the reduced burden of tax on them, where the turnover, based on the turnover, the presumptive tax percentage has been reduced to 2%. So presenting the budget, you see that these are the takeaways. So lower rate of 25% of the corporate tax extended to the companies with the annual turnover of 400 crore. And then for MSMEs, rupees 250 crore is allocated for the financial year. 2% TDS on cash withdrawal exceeding 1 crore in a year from a bank account. 2% TDS will be levied. So why is this done? This is done so that they start doing the digital payments. To encourage the digital payments, digital payments, the TDS has been enhanced so that at least to avoid the tax, the MSMEs or the companies or the corporates would be using the digital payments. And apart from that, we have the goods and services tax, the GST. So even the GST and the service tax and the other tax regimes has been brought under the GST regime. So, I mean, the dispute of service tax, value added tax, central excise and the sales tax have been clubbed under the GST, goods and services tax. So whatever the differentiations are there, those will be verified and the relief will be provided to the MSMEs. And then we have the businesses with annual turnover more than 5 crores, 50 crores, sorry, more than 50 crores, they can offer low-cost digital modes of payments, and in a way, they can enhance their customer base. And then coming to the incentives and concessions to MSMEs. So there are wide varieties of incentives and concessions which are provided to the MSMEs. The one being the national awards for the quality products in MSME sector. So this particular award has been launched in the year 1983. These awards are given away to MSME enterprises for the encouragement and for the motivation to set up small scale units and to recognize their efforts to modernize their industries in upgrading the quality of their products. So these awards are given for every calendar year, and these are based on the recommendations by the state and union territory level, the selection committee, and the final selection by the national level selection committee. So whatever the committee selects, that is binding and that is final. And the scheme also envisages the 3 national awards, that is the first, second, and third, and 1 special recognition award for the entrepreneurs belonging to each state and union territory from 1993 onwards. Okay. And then we have also the SC/ST Entrepreneur Award, which is also added to the existing awards list. And then we have the national awards for the outstanding MSME entrepreneurs. These awards were again instituted in the year 1986, and again these are given for every calendar year for every state and union territory level. The selection committee will be selecting, and the final selection committee by the national level selection committee will be finalized. So for this, the MSMEs require permanent registration with the Directorate of Industries, and the production for a period of minimum 4 years preceding to the year in which the award has been nominated or selected. So why is this award given? Is to just encourage the small scale industries to produce quality products and maintain the quality standards both at the level international and national levels. And they try to propagate the culture and the quality of the products. And the same thing will be carried forward to the export industries as well as to the domestic industries in product identification and differentiation. And then we have the National Award for Research and Development Efforts in MSME sector. So the award is to be given to promote the concept of in-house research and development. So within the MSME, the government wants to encourage the research and development. So try new fields, new products, new innovations, new categories. So they can be n number of things which the government would like to promote. So these things have to be taken care by the awards committee, like what kind of development research activities are undertaken, and based on that the awards will be nominated. Okay. And some of the concessions which are available to the MSMEs, like you have the collateral free loans from banks. You don't have to have any collateral securities. 50% subsidy on patent registrations. And there is 1% exemption on the interest rate on the overdraft. So you have the concession on power utility bills. You are eligible for the industrial promotion subsidy. You have protection against the delayed payments. And you also have the reimbursement of ISO certification standards. That is the charges, whatever you are paying for the ISO certification. And then we have the MSMEs and goods and services tax, that is the GST. Now, the implementation of GST though it is considered very tedious by most of the MSMEs, it is actually benefiting them. Whenever we see the scope in the longer run, the GST policies, the GST structure is benefiting them. So, in a way, you need to pay the multiple taxes in the earlier case, whether it is a service tax, or whether it is a value-added tax, or whether it is a sales tax, central sales tax, or the general sales tax, whenever there is interstate movement. So in a way, so you have to pay so many taxes, and no tax is going to give you concession stating that, okay, you paid service tax, you don't have to pay back, or you paid back, there is no GST, or there is no CST, or something of that sort. So you have to pay the taxes at par, because there is no benefit given for the tax reduction or concession. So in a way, the GST implementation has given the long run benefit to the MSMEs. So GST allows MSMEs opportunities to access wider market. So, I mean, whenever we are talking about within the state, I mean, you have the respective state sales tax like AP GST, Andhra Pradesh government general sales tax, or Tamil Nadu general sales tax. Earlier period I'm talking about. So now the GST is allowing to reduce the burden of both the interstate and intrastate. And it is also having the ease of business by application of a unified GST scheme. And GST also improves the profitability by widening the scope of input credits to include the service tax. Now, what do you mean by input credit? Input credit is nothing but it comes under the central excise, wherein you get the input credit tax. I mean, whatever the inputs you are putting to manufacture the product. So when does the central excise tax is levied? So I'm just giving the basic meanings, because if I'm telling what is this, what is that, you won't understand. So I'm just giving the basic meaning of excise duty. Now, excise duty is a duty which is levied whenever you are manufacturing a product. Okay, so you manufacture a product by adding raw materials, by using some kind of inputs, and there is a process involved in the manufacturing of the product, and the manufacturing has taken place in India. So then only the excise duty is attracted. So whenever you are buying inputs in the sense the raw materials. So when the manufacturing concern is buying the raw materials, it will pay tax on those inputs. And once those raw material are used in the production process, again the final product is taxed. So what is happening here? You are paying on the raw materials tax, that is the input tax. And again, your output is also taxed. So the vendor is generally paying the double taxes. So to avoid that, you are given an input tax credit. So whatever taxes you have paid on the inputs will be given as a credit. Okay. So this input tax credit will also have a leverage, and in a way that is going to encourage the profitability of the concerns. And when we are talking about the compliances, it is very easier through a reduction in the number of returns. I mean, whenever we are talking about the GST, I mean, before GST also, there were so many forms, Form 1, Form 2, Form F, Form E. So for different set of category, you need to submit a different set of forms. So again, once the introduction of the GST scheme, you have only minimum number of forms. So the forms are generally decided based on your input, based on your turnover, based on your type of concern. So many things are happening simultaneously. So it would be I mean, a very simple process in making the payment for the GST. And then the limit for the composition of the scheme has been raised to 1.5 crores. Through the subject of some restrictions, the scheme is highly beneficial for the local businesses. I don't say that the entire scheme is beneficial, but there are certain limitations, some certain deficiencies in the law. But overall, in the long run, a lot of benefits can only be seen with the scheme of GST. And then you have some kind of initial investment in technology, and the certain amount has to be ensured with the financial compliances under GST. So, I mean, you need to have your GSTN number, that is the unique identification number, which is provided to the vendor whenever he's paying the GST. Okay, so this data, now this GST has to be, earlier it was supposed to be paid every month. And then now I think it is every quarter. For every quarter, you need to pay the GST. but the return has to be filed. Whether you have to pay the GST or not, the return has to be filed with a zero GST also. And if you are not filing the return, there are heavy penalties levied by both the central and the state GST. And then when we are talking about the Udyog Aadhaar memorandum, so it is not mandatory, like large number of MSMEs are not registered. So therefore, the objective of the government to promote a formalized MSME through registrations has not yet yielded any result. So, but through UAM, it is self-declared and there is no verification authority, there is no authenticity of the data. Whatever form you are submitting, it is being accepted. So there is no authenticity. And because of these things, the UAM has been losing the credibility in the market. But whatever it is, the GST goods and service tax is aiming to benefit the large crowd of populations by generalizing the payment of GST through the vendors. Now, the next subheading is the startup policy. So, Startup India initiative, which has been taken by the central government, which is gearing up to launch more and more new schemes and initiatives for the MSMEs with a slogan, with a pledge that be Indian, buy Indian, make Indian goods. So, I mean, this kind of encouragement which is being provided to the MSMEs to be more into the production of the Indian-made goods. And in a way, it is also boosting some kind of encouragement to the Indian manufacturers, that is the domestic manufacturers from the competition, from the fierce competition of the foreigners. So an entity shall be considered as a startup if it is incorporated as a private limited company or registered as a partnership firm or a limited liability partnership in India. So, I mean, these are the three criteria for the setup of a startup. And then up to 10 years from the date of its incorporation registrations. Okay, and if its turnover for any of the financial years since incorporation or registration has not exceeded 100 crores. And if it is working towards innovation, development, or improvement of products or processes or services, I mean, it is a scalable business model with a high potential of employment generation as well as wealth creation. Now, when we are seeing these are the conditions, the turnover should not have exceeded the financial years, that is from the 10 years of the financial years, 100 crores, and it should have been registered as a private limited company or limited liability partnership or a partnership. And if, it should be working with the innovations and the development or improvement of the products or the processes. So if any entity formed by splitting up or reconstruction of a business already in existence, it will not be considered as a startup. Okay. So what would be the action plan? So in order to meet the objectives of the government, it has announced an action plan. So that addresses all aspects of the startup ecosystem. So with this action plan, the government hopes to accelerate and spreading of the startup movement. So from the digital technology sector to a wide array of sectors. It can be inclusive of the agriculture, manufacturing, or healthcare, education, social sector, or anything. Okay, and then from existing tier 1 cities to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, including semi-urban and rural areas. So not restricting to the cities or the metropolitan places, it is also being geared up to meet the rural and the semi-urban areas. And the action plan is based on 3 pillars. That is the simplification and hand-holding, the fund support and incentives, the industry and the academia partnerships and incubation. So whenever we are talking about the incubators, they need to function along with the industry as well as the education institutions. If there is no tie-up between these two, I mean, you can't find the general growth and the development, because the industry's requirements are something and the education system is providing something. There is no match. I mean, industry wants all the latest, and the education system, where they are not changing the syllabi very frequently. And then you are reading the age-old books from years and years with no innovative concepts. So when it comes to the utilization or employability, the education, what you have learned is not important, because it is all old. What is the new is not there. So if at all you see the present trend where most of the, I mean, the concentration is on machine learning or artificial intelligence, so on and so forth. So this is where the trend is now. So whatever the latest trend is there in those areas, the educational institution should play a concentration or an important role. And simplification and hand-holding. So easier compliances should be there. I mean, the exit process should also be there, the starting process as well as the exit process. When we are talking about the public sector companies or MSMEs, there are few procedures which are to be followed at the time of the company taking the birth. And similarly, when the company wants to leave the market, exit from the market, there are few formalities which have to be fulfilled, which have to be done by the MSME. So the policy, whatever the rules and regulations are there should be ease. I mean, you can just enter, you can see the position of your company, you can stay in the market for a little period. And then once you feel that you're not making profits, maybe smoothly, you can just exit the process, okay, as a failure. You're a startup, but you have failed and you don't see the light, so you're just closing down your business. And then you have funding and incentives. So we have the exemptions on the income tax and capital gains. So the income tax is 25% and the capital gains, the long-term capital gains is 0% and the short-term capital gain is 15%. And these are eligible for the startups or for the funds which have been infused into the startup ecosystem and the credit guarantee scheme. So this funding incentive is there. The incubation and industry academia partnerships, as I said, where the numerous incubators and innovation labs are set up in the colleges. Like, for example, few banks like Axis Bank or ICICI Bank, they are tied up with few educational institutions or the universities where they have the incubators, where they train the students so that they can be the future employees of the concern, and this can be dealt on the lines of a startup. And then you have simplification and hand-holding. So, I mean, what are the compliances which are based on the self-certification, and what are the startups which are there in India, and what is their hold in the market? So, I mean, you can also think about the, what do you mean, the apps, the mobile apps or the portals, which try to bring a lot of visibility and viability in the market. So generally this hand-holding where you try to provide the support and guidance, wherein you are in the early process or you are into a change process, will definitely help the companies to have a breathing space. I mean, they are not in the dark. They are someone who are able to guide them, who are holding them and then moving them towards the light. Okay. And you also have the legal support and the patent examination wherein for the patent registrations or the trademarks, I mean, you don't have to go for the high expensive patenting. So there are certain concessions given to the MSMEs. And there is also relaxed norms of the public procurement for the startups. And then, yeah, the faster exit policy for startups. You don't have to follow too many obligations to exit the market. And then you also have the funding support incentives, like you try to provide the funding through the fund of funds or with the corpus. The corpus funds you have, and generally those are 10,000 crores in the Indian rupee. And you also have the credit guarantee fund for the startups. Yeah, again, the tax exemption on the capital gains, tax exemption for the startups for a period of 3 years. And there is also a tax exemption on the investment above the fair market value. I mean, these are the kinds of the benefits which provide as a supporting hand to the startups. Now, coming to the industry, academia, partnerships, and incubation. So you must have heard about. Just a second, ma. So the Atal Innovation Mission and the self-employment with the self-employment and the talent utilization program, where you try to identify the talent and under the innovation mission, you try to take their unique ideas, and in a way they are getting the self-employment through the idea generation, and they are there in the market helping the startups in giving the innovative ideas. And then you have the building of the innovation, either it can be the at the centers, at the national institutes, or it can be the private sector expertise for the incubator setup, or it can be the research parks, or it can be the startups in the biotechnology sector, or launching them in the innovative focused programs, or it can be the annual incubator for the grand challenge. So the coverage and eligibility criteria is up to 5 years from the date of incorporation. And then the turnover for the financial year should not exceed rupees 25 crore. And it is working towards innovation and with unique idea and unique exposure if they want to develop. So such kind of a project will be given importance. And then you have implementing agency like the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion is responsible to implement the initiative set up for the startups. And then you have the monitoring and review mechanism also. It's not that you start something and then you leave it. You need to have a continuous monitoring and the review mechanism where you tell them that how the deviations are there or where they are getting deviated and what kind of policy checking they can do for the revival or for the growth. And then you have the growth and working of the startups. So when we see the startups are definitely present in the market, and most of the government agencies as well as the private organizations are doing the funding for the startups. So, I mean, it is given a kind of priority, a kind of a boost in the market to see that these startups are making continuous profits. Now, this startup definition has been amended and there's a simplified recognition process. So there's no long gestation period for the startup. And the definition has been amended wherein the entity shall be considered as a startup for a period of 7 years. Okay. So this has been earlier considered as 5 years. Now this is 7 years. And a biotechnology startup for a period of 10 years of the incorporation, it is considered as a startup. And then you have recognition. So, I mean, when you say out of so many applications, thousands and thousands of applications, if your name is selected, you feel like you're different. You feel like you're superior, right? You try to focus on the various factors. I mean, you can just check yourself in the market, the position, what kind of a recognition process you are getting. Once you are there in the market, what kind of a benefits you are getting, and for how much period the benefits can be accrued and redempted. So such kind of policy decisions can be taken, and you need to have the recognition from the worldwide startups that you are different in the market and you are trying to make the profits. And similarly, there is a compliance regime based on self-certification. So these compliance norms have been eased so that the regulatory burdens of the startups can be monitored. Okay, so the startups falling under the list of 36 white category industries will not require any environment clearance under environment related acts, and similarly the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Cess Amendment Act 2003, the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution. So, I mean, these kind of things, if you see, are tend, and I mean, these implementations will definitely boost the performance of the startups. And the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Development, MSDE, has issued advisory to states to allow startups to certify compliance for a period of 1 year with the apprenticeship rules 1992, providing the apprenticeship training and which you make them ready for the market. And coming to the next one is Startup India Hub. So the Startup India Hub was operationalized on the 1st of April 2016, and it helps in resolving the queries. It provides hand-holding support to the startups, and the hub has handled more than 1,14,000 queries through telephones, through email, through Twitter, and giving the required the suggestions or help through these modes of communication. And then you have the patent benefits. A panel of 427 facilitators for the patent and design applications and 670 facilitators for trademark applications have been constituted for the assistance in filing the intellectual property application. As I told, the intellectual property rights are very, very important. You cannot cross over, you cannot dominate, you cannot join some, I mean, you cannot trespass the other holdings. So for that, you need to know what is intellectual property rights. So whatever the intellectual property applications are there, those have been cleared on fast track basis. And the process of the patent filing or the acquisition of the DIPP bearing bonds or whatever it is, I mean, the process has been eased out, and you don't have to wait in the queue. You don't have to stay in the queue for a longer time to get your benefit. So it is on fast track basis, the clearance has been given. And then you have the relaxed norms of procurement. So to create ecosystem for growth of startups, I mean, an equal platform to the startups, we have experienced entrepreneurs, companies in public procurement, and you have relaxed norms of public procurement for the micro and small enterprises. These have been provisioned in the procurement policy of the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. I mean, subject if they are meeting to the quality standards or the technical specifications which have been mentioned. And then you have the tax benefits. Yeah. So a lot of tax benefits are available under Startup India scheme. So the Finance Act 2016 had made provisions for the startups to get income tax exemption for a period of 3 years in a block of 5 years. And if they are incorporated between the 1st April 2016 to 31st March 2019, I mean, the Union Budget 2017-18, where the government has increased the period of profit-linked deduction, which is eligible to a startup to 7 years. Earlier, it was 5 years. Now that has been raised to 7 years. And you also have tax exemption on the capital gains under Section 54EE. Now, Section 54 deals with the exemption, and it has been introduced that the units which provide for the exemption of the capital gain up to rupees 50 lakhs arising out of long-term transfer of the capital gain invested in the fund notified by the central government. I mean, whenever you are transferring the long-term capital gain under fund notified by the central government, whenever such transfer is done from one company to another company or from one startup to another startup, it is not considered as a new, and you will get the 100% exemption under Section 54EE. And then the removal of angel tax. Now, this angel tax is nothing but where the tax exemption on the investments above the fair market value are called as angel tax. So it has been introduced for the startups, and the revised norms for the claiming angel tax exemption has been provided through a notification somewhere in the year 2018, but now this has been removed. Now, the Fund of Funds for Startups, FFS, the Fund of Funds for the Startups, I mean, a fund of funds for the startups, the amount of rupees 10 crores in Indian currency has been introduced to support the innovation-driven startups. And this has been established and it is being managed by SIDBI, Small Industries Development Banks of India. And the corpus shall be released over to the 2 finance commission cycles, that is by 2025. The fund of funds invests in SEBI registered or alternative investment funds, which will in turn will invest in the startups. So if I'm a startup, I gain prominence, I'm gaining profits, so I can fund another startup. So such kind of credibility I can get under the scheme of fund of funds for the startup. And Atal Innovation. Now this Atal Innovation Mission is introduced by the Government of India. It is a flagship initiative to promote a culture of innovation amongst the entrepreneurs in the country. So the main objective is to develop new programs and policies for fostering innovation in different sectors of the economy. Okay, and it provides a platform like the collaborative opportunities for the different stakeholders. It will create awareness, it will create an umbrella structure to oversee the innovation ecosystem. So what are the 5 major initiatives? If you see, this is Atal. Excuse me. It can be Atal Tinkering Labs. Now it is creation of problem-solving mindset or incubation, fostering for the world-class startups, or it can be the India challenges. I mean, again, this is fostering for the product innovations. Mentor India, where you need a mentor, a guide who will be mentoring you in the innovations. And then you have the Atal Community Innovation, where you have the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, that is the rural and semi-urban. And then you have the Atal Research and Innovation for the small enterprises. I mean, to stimulate the innovations and the research in the MSME industry. To stimulate innovation and research in the MSME industry, which is in the pipeline. And again, you have the next subcategory, Uchatar Avishkar Yojana. Now, what is this Uchatar Avishkar Yojana? The objective of this is to promote industry and outcome-oriented research. Okay, then you need to focus on The research projects usually dealt by the students, which are based on the outcome. And then the faster exit for the startups. The Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Board of India, which has been set up. So instead of a startup being insolvent and again the closure, to avoid the procedural delays, you have a faster exit policy for the startups, which will try to smoothen the process of the startups exiting once they are into liquidation or once they are into the loss making. Now, what is the future of startups? According to the National Association of Software and Services Companies, in short, we call it as NASSCOM, the startups in India saw a 108% growth in total funding from US dollars 2 billion in 2017 to US dollars 4.2 billions this year. So the growth is almost double. And but there is a worrying factor. There is a decline in the funding for companies at the seed stage. So most of the companies are funding the startups which are in the flourishing stage, but in the seed stage, in the starting stage, the funding has declined. So it is something which is alarming, wherein the government has to set a foot to see that this is not still deteriorating. And when you see the government goal, what is the goal of the government is to provide economic growth and development on a larger scale. Instead of relying on already established industries, the focus is on the startups, where you try to infuse some funding and a new innovative idea can be evolved, which might be generating a lot of profits, not only in the local market, but also when it comes to the global market. All the innovations or all the new techniques are always welcome. So such kind of a strategy the government has to look in. So what are the challenges faced by the startups in India? So if you see the Agitech, Zomato, Swiggy, as I said, these are all startups, Flipkart, Paytm, Byju's EduTech, Ola, Oyo, are all the successful startups in India. In spite of the encouragement extended by the government, when I'm saying government, both the central and the state, the startups are still facing few challenges like shortage of, again, the financial resources, unable to generate revenue as per the expectations, unable to understand the legal framework, and unable to create proper awareness about the products or the services in the market. They are unable to cope up with the changing regulations. And sometimes the policies of the government are also demotivating, like the demonetization of the currency and the GST, which are not favored under the startups. Like the GST, the norms are different for the startups, provided you fall in that particular criteria. So, these challenges can be overcome, wherein the Prime Minister Employment Generation Program, under which 25 lakhs financial assistance was extended for the manufacturing units, which are considered as startups, and 10 lakhs for the service organizations. And there's a credit guarantee fund scheme where your credit is guaranteed. Whatever credit is being taken, that is a guaranteed under the scheme, where the government has given the guarantee of the refund of the funds. So such kind of guarantee schemes will be are being provided up to 100 lakhs. And then the launch of the promoting innovation in individuals, like the startups and MSMEs, which support the individual innovators from various financial grants. And generally the maximum extent is rupees 50 lakhs. And then launched a policy to promote marketing support. So generally the startups, they have a lot of problem in marketing their products. So they are doing innovations, but when it comes to the saleability, they are not capable of selling the producers. So that kind of assistance is being provided. And when we are talking about the above schemes, apart from the above schemes, there are multiple grants or the schemes which are being applied in the market, like the bank credit facility scheme, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, the Stand Up India Sustainable Finance Scheme, the Smile to support the startups. So all these are trying their level best to, boost the startup, and the startups can be in any form. Either it can be the retailing, consumer, education, travel and hospitality, healthcare, whatnot. So there are so many criteria. Each and every criteria is trying to sustain in the market with the tough competition and other challenges, what we discussed just now. Now we'll start the next subunit. Export promotion facilities for the MSME sector. So any country will achieve progress through a proper balance of payments. This balance of payments can be doubled or tripled when you have a favorable balance of payments. That is, more of exports and less of imports. So, the government has to provide some kind of a direction through a policy framework to achieve this favorable balance of products. So, on the other hand, if the entrepreneur has to understand, like, what are the different forms of export businesses, what are the policies offered by the government, and what are the various schemes which are there in the market, and what are the various documents which are required to process the export order, and how to become a successful exporter. So, all these are very important, which is what we are going to learn here. So what is export promotion? So the economic policy of the government of India places higher emphasis on export development, as it is very important for the development of the country. The benefit of the exports to the economy are many. Like if you see the foreign markets, they provide opportunities to achieve economies of large scale production. Then you also have the domestic, and small markets are getting saturated. So your domestic market is being lost. So under such cases, rather than filtering in the same domestic market and getting losses, it is always advisable to search for the new market. And why not a foreign market as a new market? And the resultant effects of the domestic recession can also be offset. There is recession in one place and there is no recession in another place, then maybe, you can take a call, and then the recession can definitely be turned to set up your sales in a different country or in a different place. And a country may get rid of trade deficit and foreign debt by increasing its share. The export share, if it is increasing, just now I said, no, you can have the favorable balance of payments, and you can also maintain competitive position in the international markets, wherein you are able to domestically grow through the economic activity, and by also having the surplus. And whenever you are having the surplus, it means that it is a positive sign that you are growing in the market. So what are the objectives of export promotion? The main objectives are to compensate the exporters for the high domestic cost of production. Okay, so whenever you're exporting, what really happens? You go for the marginal cost pricing only under the export. Now, why do you go for the marginal cost? So the marginal cost is nothing but the variable cost. Why do you go for the variable cost? So the first objective, the high domestic cost of production. Now, in cost of production, what are the different costs which are incurred? You incur fixed costs, you incur variable costs. So what are fixed costs? Fixed costs are to be borne whatever may be the level of the capacity. So to a certain extent of the capacity, your fixed costs will not change. Whereas your variable cost will be varying with every additional unit of production. So when you are pricing a product, the price of the product will be fixed cost plus variable cost. So you try to charge a price which will try to cover your cost of production, your expenses. And whenever you are exporting, already you are bearing your fixed cost, whether it is 1,000 units production or 5,000 units, your fixed cost will not change. So you are already producing the units for your home market, and a part of it are being exported. So whenever you are fixing a price for the export market, you need to consider only the variable cost, because fixed costs are already recovered from the domestic market. So whatever variable costs are there, those should be recovered in the foreign market. So in a way, you are trying to compensate whatever the costs which are there incurred in the cost of production in your domestic area can be achieved by selling the product in the foreign market. And it also provides necessary assistance to the new and infant exporters to develop the export business. It also increases the relative profitability of the export business through the domestic business. So in a way, both your domestic as well as your foreign, that is the international trade, will be boosted simultaneously in the export promotion. So why do we need export promotion in India? The first thing is, any country needs foreign exchange. The foreign exchange can be utilized to pay the import bills, or it can be to pay the foreign loans, or it can be to utilize for the production activities, whatever it is. Every country will be focusing on increasing their foreign exchange reserves. And to motivate organizations more into exports and earn a lot of foreign exchange. And whenever you are earning foreign exchange, how are your bills paid? So the bill, whatever foreign exchange you receive, that will be directly going to the Reserve Bank of India. So whatever foreign currencies you are getting, those will not be credited or debited directly to your accounts, but through the Reserve Bank of India, through that channel, the amount will be utilized. So in a way, your reserves in the Reserve Bank of India will also be affected whenever there is a foreign exchange policy. So in a way, the export will earn a lot of foreign exchange. And then the promotion of interests of Indian exporters, which in turn will be committed to the World Trade Organization, WTO commitments. The WTO, what is World Trade Organization? It is an international organization which is established in the year 1990 and which is established in the year 1947, and then it is an international body which is going to govern the foreign trade, international trade. The head office is located at Geneva, and we have the summits, we have the meetings, periodical meetings, and the members who have been there in the WTO will meet periodically, and in each and every meeting or a session, they take the policies, the international policies or the treaties, which will be helpful in the smooth functioning of the trade between the most favored nations, MFN status, the countries who have most favored nation status. The trade treaty will be helping them for the smooth import and export of goods. So that is what the WTO commitment. And then we have the import of capital, to import capital goods to enable Indian exporters to import capital goods at a concessional rate of duty. Definitely you need a lot of foreign products or the materials which can be used or which can be enhancing the quality of the product. So such kind of raw materials at a concessional rate. You can get the capital goods, it can be the machinery, or it can be the kind of materials what you are using in the production. And yeah, to correct the unfavorable balance of trade, you always want a balance, a favorable balance of trade with more of exports and less of imports. And to achieve the self-reliance by accelerating exports, you don't want to rely on other foreign countries for the imports. So you want your products to be exported to different places. And then the major focus is on self-reliance. You want to be self-reliant, and the interdependency on the foreign countries, you want to reduce that. And moreover, to sell the surplus of production to the foreign markets. So in a way, you are trying to increase your share of exports, as well as you want to contribute to the economic development of the nation. Now, what is the rationale behind export promotion of MSME sector? Now, the capability of Indian MSME products to compete in international market is reflected when we are talking about the share. 34% in the national exports are part of the Indian MSME, which go to the international markets. So like the ready-made garments, the leather goods, the processed foods, the engineering items, or some kind of products of this category has a tremendous performance. I mean, commendable performances where more of the exports are being seen in these MSMEs. While in some cases like the sports goods, they account for the 100% share to the total exports. I mean, they're doing an excellent job. Okay, so in view of this, the export promotion from the small scale sector has been accorded high priority in India's export promotion strategy. I mean, it includes the simplification of the procedures or giving the higher incentives for the production of the exports, or the preferential treatment to the MSMEs, or duty drawback rules, so on and so forth. So in a way, these will be promoting or boosting for the international trade. Okay, so when we are seeing the talking about the schemes, the following are the schemes, like it can be the participation in the international exhibitions or fairs, or the training programs on the packaging of the exports, or it can be the marketing development assistance scheme for the exports, or it can be the national award for the quality products, or it can be the technical and managerial consultancy services to the MSME manufacturers. Now, what is the role of Exim Bank in export promotion? What is Exim Bank? Export and Import Bank. So the main functioning, the commencement of the operations are from 1982, and the main focus is to provide export credit and reflect the global export credit agencies. Now, the bank is serving as a growth engine for the industries and small and medium enterprises by offering wide range of products and services. So this includes import of technology, or export product development, or export production, export marketing. It can be pre-shipment, post-shipment, overseas investment. Okay, so there's a rapid shift in the financial landscape of the Exim Bank, and it has become one of the key players in the promotion of cross-border trade and investment. Okay, so when we see the constitution of the Exim Bank, the board of directors comprises, the board comprises of 12 directors, and they are directly appointed by the government of India, and that also includes a chairman and a managing director. And the others include 5 high-ranking government of India functionaries, and the 3 directors are from the scheduled commercial banks, and the 4 are the trade experts or the industry experts. So when the key roles are fulfilled by the 3 directors nominated by the Reserve Bank of India and the Industrial Development Bank of India and the Export Credit Guarantee Limited, Corporation Limited. So the Exim Bank of India has the following objectives: so to provide the financial and the technical and the administrative assistance to the exports and import, and it also includes the planning, the promotion and the development to the export oriented units, EOUs, and then to finance the research projects, conduct surveys, or conduct techno-economic studies in connection with the promotion and the development of the foreign trade. It also includes the collection and the compilation and the dissemination of the market, the credit information in respect of the international trade, and to function as the principal financial institution for coordinating the working of the institutions engaged in the financing. So Exim Bank extends lines of credit to overseas governments, financial institutions, regional banks, and other overseas entities also. So generally, to finance India's exports in those countries, the Exim Bank's LOC is a risk-free, non-resource export financing, the option which is available to the Indian exporters. And they try to utilize this facility in promoting their exports. Under this arrangement, the overseas imports are required to pay advance payment to the Indian exporters. Generally, it is 10% of the contract value, and the Exim Bank pays the balance amount, which is normally 90% of the contract value, to the Indian exporters. And this is done through the negotiating banks in India upon the shipment of goods. And in a way, your 100% is received before you're actually exporting. So this in way is helping the delayed payment exports. So whenever there are delayed payment exports, the term loans are provided to the export to deal with the exporting charges of the goods and services. And it also helps in locating the foreign buyers and making mobilizing of the goods and services possible. And there is also pre-shipment credit. What is pre-shipment credit? Before the goods are leaving the Indian borders, water borders, there's a pre-shipment credit funded by the Exim Bank, which will allow them to undertake the expenses relating to the export. And then you also have term loans for the export production. You focus on maintaining the export-oriented units. You concentrate on only the production of the export-oriented units. You're not focusing on the domestic. Whatever you're producing, you're planning to export them to a foreign market, and in a way gaining the foreign currency. For such thing, the export term loans will be provided. And then you have the foreign investment finance. The Exim Bank provides the financial assistance for the equity contribution to the Indian companies who form the joint venture with the foreign companies. And then you also have the financing export marketing. You finance the marketing activities under the export scheme. And you also finance for the MSMEs. They arrange the credit line, and they arrange the credit line from the Asian Development Bank, and which provides the foreign currency term loans to the MSMEs, so that they can be using such money for the financing of their projects and international delivery of the products. Now, coming to the export business. Now, what is export? It is to ship the goods and services out of the borders, out of the port of the country, the Indian waters, if you're exporting the goods. So the seller of such goods and services is referred as an exporter. And the country, whoever is importing the goods, is called as an importer. So in simple, the exporter will export the goods and services manufactured in a country. Okay. And those goods are purchased by an importer. So export business is characterized by the following features. The seller is called exporter. The buyer is called the importer. The seller can sell his goods directly to the buyers through intermediaries called indirect exporting. And the exporting is found to be a more challenging when compared to the domestic marketing, because as I said, in the domestic market, you know everything. There are no language barriers, you know the laws, you know the government rules and regulations, you know the taxes, you know the culture, you know the religion, you know the lifestyle, you know the earning capacity, everything, every information you have. But when it comes to a foreign market, you are a layman, you don't know anything about the foreign market. So you need to explore, you need to identify, and then select, and then distribute the product. Okay. And then export, in case of a domestic sale, manufacturers, they sell the produce to the wholesalers, and then wholesalers to the retailers, and from retailers to the consumers. Whereas in the exporting, the manufacturers have to first sell them to the importers, And then the importers will in turn sell them to the wholesalers and the retailers of that particular country. And the export business requires lower level of investment than other modes, such as foreign direct investment. And such thing will be leveling your investment on a lower grounds. And it allows managers to exercise operational control with the restricted marketing control. An export house is generally located in faraway place from the end user and often collaborates with various intermediaries to manage the marketing activities. Now, the forms of export business, either it can be direct exporting or indirect exporting. So direct exporting, it is treated as the most popular one, where the one business enterprises will directly sell them to a international marketer without any intermediaries. Okay, so it can be direct selling through distributors. You sell the products through the distributors, and then the distributors will take care of selling the respective products in the market. Or the direct selling can be done through the foreign retailers or the end users. So exporters can also sell directly to the foreign retailers that are limited to the consumer lines. I mean, you have limited consumer lines, you have limited consumer set of consumers who are using such kind of a products. So by interchange the products in trade fairs or exhibitions, this kind of direct selling can happen. And then you have the direct selling over the internet. Yeah, through e-commerce, through online marketing, you can directly identify your customer wherever located. He'll just browse your website. He will check your product online. He will check the feasibility. He'll make the comparison. And then finally, once he's satisfied, he will try to make the purchase. And then indirect exporting is nothing but selling the goods through an independent domestic middleman who is located in their home country. And this middleman is responsible to collect the goods and then sell them through their middleman, that is the wholesaler or the retailer. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of direct exporting? You have the greater potential. You will eliminate the middleman in your profits, and you have the superior degree of control over the different aspects of the business because you're the ultimate person deciding. And then it creates a sense of security that you're doing the business directly with the customer. So any problem can be dealt by the customers directly. And the customers provide faster and more reliable feedback than in the indirect marketing, exporting. And there is a protection of the trademark and the patents and the copyrights because these are ensured in the direct marketing. And it also helps in the understanding of the marketplace, and you require the flexibility, and you have the flexibility in redesigning and redoing the offers under such cases. And then comes the demerits. So I mean, you need to identify everything on your own, so which requires a greater time, energy, efforts, money, whatnot. You need all these resources. You need more employees to understand and nurture the customer base. I mean, you have more responsibility at the entry level, and you will be held responsible for whatever wrong which is happening, okay, in the foreign market. And your inability to respond the customer quickly because you're not a local agent. And then it's very difficult because now you're in a different place. So to handle the logistics will be very, very difficult. Whereas the merits of indirect marketing, it is risk-free. You already have allotted everything to a distributor. So he is going to take care. You don't have to bother about anything. And then it requires the minimum involvement because everything you export to the distributor, he'll take care. And moreover, you can simultaneously concentrate on the domestic business because once you are dealt with the distributor, you don't have to put your effort in the international marketing. And the limited liability for the marketing of the products which are otherwise higher in the direct exporting. And I mean, the exporter need not be concerned about the shipment and the logistics. Once they are loaded into the ship, once the ship leaves the borders, I mean, the burden is directly taken by the distributor. And exporters can use test market, they can use the test marketing, they can check the market, they can check the product, and then go for the introduction. And coming to the demerits, yeah, the exporters must have to satisfy with the lower profits, because the chunk of the profits are eaten away by the distributor. And once the goods are delivered to the distributor, there is no direct control by the exporter. I mean, the domestic marketer cannot have control once the goods have been exported. And the firm will lose the opportunity to customize the offerings. I mean, once it is procured, I mean, there's no further go. Okay. And then the middlemen might be also be offering the similar kind of products. That's the reason why the distributor might have taken this. So in a way, your produce and his produce will be at competitive stake in the market. And it is more difficult to redesign the marketing efforts, because the goods are not in your hand to design. The goods are already in the hands of a distributor who will be the sole person in taking the decisions. Now, coming to the documentation in the export. So, I mean, whenever you want to go for the exporting, there are a few important documents which are to be known, which are to be, submitted to the government. There are procedural formalities which are to be undertaken, where you have to meet the export authorities, where you have to meet the government, where you have to meet the banks. Just now I said, no, the Reserve Bank, where the foreign exchange is collected. So many formalities are there. So many terminologies are there. So what is the first one? Commercial invoice. So a commercial invoice is nothing but a bill for the goods from the seller to the buyer. Okay, so these invoices are often used by the government to determine the true value of the goods. I mean, you cannot over or under present the value. So once on the value, you try to levy the custom duties. So these kind of invoices help in assessing the exact custom duties. And bill of lading. So this bill of lading is nothing but it is a contract between the shipping company and the exporter, wherein the goods, which includes the title of the goods, which includes the composition of the goods, the type of the goods, the categories of the goods, the price of the goods, where it is being loaded, when it is being loaded, when the goods are going to be delivered, what is the area, what is the, the location, everything will be mentioned in the bill of lading. And then bill of exchange. It is an unconditional written order in which the importer address will be required by the exporter to pay on demand on a future date. Okay, so some kind of a guarantee that it is an unconditional. You don't put any conditional, that the goods are being exported on so and so date, and the importer needs to pay so and so amount on or a future date when the goods are received. And then you have the consular invoice. It is required in some countries. It describes the shipment of the goods and shows the information such as who is the consignor, who is the consignee, what is the value of the shipment. Such kind of details are provided. The certificate of origin, it is a product required by, again, some countries, which specifies the certain type of products. Okay, so the statement of origin is printed on the company, that from where the goods have been origined. And then the inspection certificate, which tells you that the goods are in fit condition, and these can be judged based on the quality and the quantity standards, and these can be accepted. And then you have the dock receipt. The dock is nothing but the cargo or the quarry or the warehouse pending shipment. It is used as a document to prepare the bill of lading. It says that there is no legal role regarding the processing of the financial statement. It is only a confirmation receipt from the cargo. And then you have the insurance, which ensures that if the goods are lost in the transit, your goods are insured and you are not totally at loss. The export license, it is a document issued by the relevant government department, stating that the goods are controlled by the authority and they are licensed. And then you have the export packing list. It is the detailed list of how many goods are in the transit, the quantity, the sizes, the prices, the weights, okay? So what all information is required to specify the product, such information will be maintained. And then you have the shipping bill or bill of export. It is the main document and it is required by the customs authority for allowing the shipment. Okay, so to allow the goods move and enter into the borders of any particular country, this bill is very, very important. And the letter of credit, it is a written commitment to pay by a buyer or importer bank issuing to the exporter bank, stating that the payment will be guaranteed and will be honored. Now, documentation as per the Indian foreign trade policy, we have the most important one, bill of lading, commercial invoice, packing list, and the shipping bill of export. So these are the important documents which are required for the imports and exports. And along with these following documents, that is the bill of exchange, letter of credit, invoice, airway bill, declaration under foreign exchange, certification of origin, the inspection certificate that the goods are inspected, and any other document required. So these have to be properly mentioned and submitted. Now, the export promotion schemes of the Government of India. So what are the schemes? Like we have mercantile exports from India scheme, and we also have service exports from India scheme. Now, what is this merchandise exports from India scheme? The Government of India has brought into the merchandise export incentive scheme, replacing 5 other similar incentive schemes, which were present in the earlier foreign trade policy, that is between 2009 and 14. So as per the present foreign trade policy, the MEIS scheme does not aim to merely replace these 5 schemes, but they also aim to rationalize the incentives, and they want to enlarge their scopes by removing various restrictions. So the objective of this scheme is to offset infrastructural insufficiencies and the associated costs of exporting the products produced in India by giving special emphasis on those which are of India's export interest. So, I mean, from the point of view of India, what kind of goods need to be exported, which are going to generate larger revenue, larger foreign exchange, such kind of products have to be encouraged and mobilized. So generally the incentive is paid as percentage of the realized free on board. I mean, the goods will be traveled free on board, or it can be for the notified goods in the notified markets free on board, or to determine the quantity of the incentives to the countries where the particular incentive is reaching. So such kind of benefits or incentives are being provided. So highest rewards will be given for the packages and the value added products like agricultural, village industries, which are meeting the high-tech demand, or we call it as high-tech products. And the first time support will be given for the export of the vegetables, fruits, oil, meals, dairy products, paper, and the herbal products, for example. And then you also have the global support will be provided for tea, flowers, fruits, coffee, and other essential oils, cereals, handloom, shellac, marine products, jute products. So, I mean, which have a lot of scope in the foreign market. And you can also have the support to the major markets, which will be provided for the surgicals, for the pharmaceuticals, for the industrial machinery and the machine tools, herbal, so on and so forth. And coming to the next one is the service export from India scheme. So it has introduced the service export from India scheme under the foreign trade policy, replacing the earlier scheme served from India scheme. Okay. So the main objective of this scheme is to make our services, that is the India services, globally competitive in terms of price. I mean, whatever the price they are charging, you're going to eclode globally by giving the value to the products. So what are the list of services? It can be the business services like professional services. You provide the legal, accounting, and auditing services, architectural services, the research and development services, the rental and leasing services, and the public opinion poll, which all come under the other business services. And you also have the communication services like audio visual services, motion picture, videotape, production and distribution services, sound recording, so on and so forth. And you also have construction and related engineering services. You have education services, environmental services, health related, tourism, recreation, and the transport services. So these are the different kinds of services which are rendered by the scheme. And then you have duty exemption and remission schemes. So you have the free import. You don't have to pay any duty for these products. So such kind of listing is advance authorization scheme, which will allow you to freely import the goods and the inputs with a minimum 15% of the value. Advance authorization is issued for the inputs which are in relation to the resultant products as standard output. So you have the standard norms for the standard output. Based on that, this 15% value addition is given. And you also have advance authorization for the annual requirement, wherein you get the benefit of the input waiver. And then you have the duty-free import authorization, and you also have duty drawback. Again, this duty drawback is a scheme which is exercised under central excise duty. It is claimed in the following two ways, that is the all industry rates or brand rate. Based on the above two, whichever is feasible, such kind of duty drawback facility will be provided. And we have interest equalization scheme. It provides interest equalization at the rate of 3% on the pre and post shipment credit. So this is available for all the exporters and the merchant exporters. And we also have the export promotion capital goods scheme. Under that, we have the zero duty EPCG scheme, where there is no duty collected at all. And you have post-export EPCG duty. It is a credit script scheme where once you can deliver, and after delivering, you apply the duty to be paid. So duty is provided as a credit. I mean, post the period, you pay the duty rather than you pay the duty and get the goods. And you also have other schemes such as the market access initiative schemes. So you have the financial assistance provided for the export promotion. You have town of export promotion excellence. You have status holder schemes, wherein you can hold the holder of the status in a way that is one of the better way to have the exports. So the present trends in the exports, what we observe is India's total exports grew by 7.9% year on year. When we compare with the US, we have to reach US dollars 535.45 billion. And this is during the financial year 2018 and 19. So the major reasons for the resilience in Indian exports is better awareness and matching the quality standards. I mean, we don't have the awareness, the knowledge levels. I mean, we are more into the dependency levels, and we are not able to maintain the quality standards as per the export market is demanding. So the consignment, the acceptability of the consignment has been better. The more and more you are trying to understand the export markets and you try to maintain the quality standards, you can see a strong appreciation in the rupee value, and also there is increase in the export percentage. So whenever we see from the Indians' perspective, we have the major sectors which have shown the positive growth in March are the chemicals, engineering goods, textiles, drugs and pharmaceuticals, petroleum products, so on. So these products have shown the promising growth, and the statistics, what is shown on the screen is a proof where from time to time, from the financial year ending of one period, it is showing a promising growth in the major, with the major focus of export. So one of the major emerging sectors for boosting exports in agriculture, for which the government has come up with agricultural policies. And the 5 areas for such kind of a focus is horticulture, plantations, fisheries and meat, So besides this, the government has also emphasized on the need to diversify the exports to new markets, like new areas through which we have not entered, like for the example, the African countries and China, the Asian countries, other Asian countries like China. Okay, so this is what all about the export policies or export promotion. The next unit, development of women entrepreneurs and rural entrepreneurship. We will start tomorrow and will complete, right? Okay, so the last 2 units will be completed in the next session, so that we are going to complete the syllabi as prescribed for the entrepreneurship development. So I'm closing the meeting.
Okay.